Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said regime troops and allied militia had seized Sheikh Miskeen with the help of Russian airstrikes. Well, the town is strategically located on a crossroads between Damascus and the government-controlled city of Syria. Adam Pletts is in Lebanon. We can cross live to him. Adam, good afternoon. Outline for us just why the town of Sheikh Miskeen is so strategically important.
Yeah, well, the recapture of this town by Syrian government forces of Sheikh Miskeen in Deraa province is important, largely because it lies on the road from Damascus south to the city of Deraa itself, which was, of course, the birthplace of the Syrian revolution. But by taking it, they've therefore been able to secure supply lines from Damascus south into Jordan, at the same time as cutting the province into east and west for the opposition, and to some extent disrupting their supply lines. But most of Deraa province has been in the hands of the opposition through most of the uprising, the civil war it's become in Syria. And it's actually been a traditional stronghold of the more moderate opposition, what we might term the FSA. But in the battle that just took place, it was the FSA fighting actually with al-Nusra Front, or each of them fighting independently against Syrian government forces. And as you said, worth noting there that they got strong support by the Russians with airstrikes and also on the ground from Hezbollah. And it seems that those airstrikes were instrumental in taking back the town, as has been pointed out by the likes of the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. And of course, even we heard just a moment ago in your package there, Russia's President Putin saying himself that acknowledging that his country's airstrikes have been instrumental in changing the situation on the ground there for the Syrian government forces.
Now, Adam, the taking, or the seizing rather, of Sheikh Miskeen appears to be part of concerted efforts by the Syrian government to advance on a range of different fronts.
Well, that's right. The overall sort of pattern recently has been one of the government being on the offensive with help on the ground from its allies, Hezbollah, and as we're just saying, also in the air from Russia. But that's in stark contrast to certainly the early half of 2015, which saw the creation of the army of reconquest in the north of the country, in Idlib, an alliance of Islamist opposition rebels, and that very quickly took, for instance, the capital of that province, Idlib city, and then went on the offensive of the sort of border regions between Idlib and Latakia being a government stronghold. And actually, if you look at where most of the Russian airstrikes have taken place, it's been in this sort of border region between Latakia and Idlib province, where they've been trying to assist the Syrian government in pushing back those rebels there. And so, of course, the main thing that's changed since early 2015 and now is the introduction of those Russian airstrikes. Of course, the Russians themselves saying that they started them to hit the Islamic State group, but the majority, it seems, by most analysis, of their strikes have been against the opposition in general, be they Islamic State group, al-Nusra, other Islamists, or even Western-backed, more moderate opposition groups. And of course, all of this taking place just ahead of the peace talks, as you mentioned, which are scheduled for Friday, although it's looking unlikely that those will go ahead, or precarious at the very least, since it's still unclear as to who exactly will be talking on behalf of the opposition, or who will be allowed to take part in those talks. But these very most recent pushes that we've seen by the Syrian government could be an attempt for them to strengthen their position on the ground, so they have a better hand of cards at the negotiating table should these peace talks take place on Friday.